Okay, moving on to our next work session, Railroad Advisory Board. I'm not sure who all is coming up for that, but
Our chair and vice chair.
welcome.
Not here, so I'll go check in the hall.
Oh,
Vice
okay.
chair was just here. Right back.
All right. Okay, sounds good.
Probably saw a seat turn and said they'll be.
The chair is also on the board of equals.
Oh, the Board of Equalization is meeting. Okay. So we'll just pause for a couple minutes. No problem. Okay, after a brief pause, we're moving on to the Railroad Advisory Board work session. So welcome, Dan. It seems like you're doing double duty this morning, so appreciate that. Yeah, and then just move it toward you.
Thank you. And good morning. And I thank the board for hearing us this morning. I just want to explain quickly what we're
Could you
attempting.
just identify yourself for the record?
I'm Daniel Weaver. I'm the chair of the Railroad Advisory Board and just came from the Board of Equalization. Excuse me. We're attempting to put our efforts to fruition and do an information program to better inform the residents of Clark County. There are a number of residents who are familiar with the railroad, particularly the ones that live right along the railroad. But there are a lot of people in the county that I've talked to anyway that say they don't know anything about the railroad, and some of them don't even know that the county has a railroad. They live remotely from that. And the railroad does provide benefits to the whole county, not just the ones that are right next to the railroad. So what we're attempting to do is an information program to explain the railroad to them. And to give a bit of background for some of the new counselors, the formation of the Railroad Advisory Board was done shortly after the railroad was purchased by Clark County. And the early operation of the railroad was done by a person that was contracted to do that, who didn't really address the benefits of the railroad and had some activity on the railroad, but it continued to decline over time till it was down to near nothing when a new operator was brought on board a few years ago. And the current operation is with, as you probably all know, is Eric Temple and PVJR. And they have continued to advance the railroad operation, and they're doing near pushing 1,000 cars a year on the line when it was down to zero when he first took over. And again, we're only attempting to communicate to the public at large what the railroad's all about, the history of the railroad, and what it is and now and what it can do going forward. And I'm going to turn it over to Neil Chambers, who is going to present a slide presentation that a group subcommittee of the Railroad Advisory Board has put together, and we've all viewed it and nurtured it and tweaked it and many times. And Neil has done an excellent job of putting it all together. So I'll let him turn it over to him and let him show that program to you.
Yes, I'm Neil Chambers, and I think you've got it queued up here, so go ahead and play it. Several failed attempts to connect Vancouver,
by rail across the Cascade Mountains to Yakima. Although the goal was never realized, the rail that was finished did have an impact on the development of Clark County. Today, I would like to describe the railroad, its location, and a brief history of the line, and list some reasons the line is good for our community and talk about a vision for the future. The Chelatchie Prairie Railroad has been known by many different names over the years, most recently the Lewis and Clark Railroad. It's 33 miles long. It starts around Northwest 78th Street and Lakeshore Avenue, where it connects with the BNSF line at Rye Junction. The end of the line is in Chelatchie Prairie. This map depicts the route and how it bisects Clark County diagonally and lists the communities are along the line. Who's who? The railroad and the right-of-way are owned by Clark County. The Portland-Vancouver Junction Railroad, PVJR, has a lease with the county to operate on the line. Eric Temple is the owner of PVJR. Battleground, Yacolt, and Chelatchie Prairie Railroad, BYCX, is an all-volunteer organization that runs a tourist train from downtown Yacolt. The Railroad Advisory Board is a group appointed by the Clark County manager. Railroad history. This is going to be a brief history of the line. If you're interested in learning more, the Clark County Historical Museum published a great history written by Greg Harrington in their 2023 yearbook. Originally proposed to reach Yakima from Vancouver, construction of the track started in 1888 but did not reach Yacolt till 1902. In 1902, the Yacolt burn devastated the area. The railroad was crucial for salvaging the burned logs and bringing them to market. Besides freight, passenger rail service was offered to Yacolt from 1903 until 1932. Since there were no viable roads year-round, this helped the area flourish. The track was extended to Chelatchie Prairie in 1950, after Harbor Plywood acquired the mill in 1948. The rail line was critical to the economy of northern Clark County until 1979, when International Paper closed their mill in Chelatchie Prairie. The rail line was purchased by Clark County in 1986. Here are some of the justifications for acquiring the line. Stimulating economic development along the tracks. Promoting an excursion train as a local attraction. Create a 33-mile-long trail adjacent to or along the right-of-way. And preserving the right-of-way for future utilities. Challenges. For most of the railroad's history, Clark County was mostly rural. Rapid growth starting in the 1970s has residential development building close to the line. Rail car sizes in the early years were a fraction of the size that modern-day cars are. Since Clark County has owned the line, there's been a push to upgrade the rails and ties to modern standards. There's still a lot of old rail in place. Land use. Light industrial land adjacent to the line is commonly used for non-rail uses. For the railroad to thrive, there needs to be real estate available for companies that will use the line. Why is rail better? One rail car can carry 3 to 4 times the freight of a truck. Rail transport is cost-effective, moving large quantities over long distances. Freight railroads are much safer than trucks when measured by mile ton. Rail requires less of a footprint and is more economical to build and maintain than a road. Environmental benefits. On average, trains are 4 times more fuel efficient than trucks. Steel train wheels help protect groundwater. Recent studies have shown that rubber tires release a chemical that kills fish. Reduction of greenhouse gas. By reducing the number of trucks on the road, the overall amount of fuel burned is reduced. Shortline versus mainline railroad. Rail companies like Burlington Northern and Union Pacific primarily operate by moving large amounts of commodities from point A to point B. They are not set up to move a few cars of product to businesses off the main line. This is where short-line railroads shine. Nationally, 20% of all products shipped on rail either started or ended on a short-line railroad. Traffic on the short line only serves customers on the line. Speed will be less than that of the main line. Portion of Clark County's track used for freight are rated as accepted track, which means that there's a speed limit of 10 miles an hour. Portions of the track used by an excursion train are Class 1 track. Other portions are not currently rated. If the track is improved to Class 2, the speed can be increased to 25 miles an hour for freight and 40 miles an hour for freight on Class 3. The amount of traffic will be significantly less than the Burlington Northern and Union Pacific main lines through south and west of Clark County. These lines are very busy and move more than 40 to 50 trains per day. Currently, the short line carries about 800 cars per year. The local short line would likely never see more than 2 or 3 freight trains per day under the very best of circumstances. Future transit. Given the rail line location between growing population centers, it may make sense to add passenger rail in the future. Advances in battery-powered trains may allow for less costly infrastructure. An electric pantograph system would be more energy efficient, but be more expensive to implement. Rail with trail. A study was commissioned in 2008 by Clark County to look at a trail to be aligned with the rail. The first section of the trail starting at Battleground Lake opened in 2011. The vision includes aligning the trail next to existing rail in non-industrial areas. There are no current efforts to add to this trail. Chelatchie Prairie Railroad. BYCX, the Battleground, Yakult, and Chelatchie Railroad, operates an excursion train using the name Chelatchie Prairie Railroad. They are an all-volunteer group. Their station is located in downtown Yakult. They operate from May to December. They seem to have their fair share of train robberies and headless horsemen, and the season always ends with a visit from St. Nicholas. Economic goals. Facilitate access to rail for local manufacturers and logistics firms. There are many small companies that would benefit by having access to the railroad for receiving raw materials and shipping finished products. Create job opportunities that offer sufficient wages to support families. Maximize the tax base by making better use of land located next to the line. Tax benefits. The assessed value of agricultural zoned property is a fraction of industrial property. Properties that are zoned industrial can help reduce the burden of taxes on residential properties. One of the biggest beneficiaries of an increased tax base will be our schools. Here are examples of the type of industries that would be ideal for a rail-served development. Columbia Vista Sawmill, Columbia River Carbonate, and Far West Steel. The railroad is a very valuable asset to Clark County. In this presentation, we've provided a colorful, economical, and beneficial history of the Chelatchie Prairie Railroad. In addition, we've provided some future innovations and benefits of the railroad. We are focusing on the economic benefits in our ongoing advisory role. Those benefits are increased tax base, increased school tax revenue, increased jobs in Clark County, and overall increased economic growth in Clark County. We believe there is ample opportunities to provide industrial growth along the railroad and provide transportation of goods to and from industrial sites without the traffic of large trucks which denigrate the county's highways. Some of the unused properties along the railroad tracks can be converted to light industrial use, which provide a tax base which is 4 to 5 times the tax base of unused rural properties. The tax base carries with it an increase in the amount of taxes for the benefit of schools. In addition, those properties provide the basis for more jobs in Clark County. In the future, the railroad tracks could provide the basis for passenger traffic across Clark County. We sincerely hope that the residents of Clark County will join us in developing the railroad into an economic driver for all of us. Together, we can create ideas that can utilize this valuable asset to our benefit. We know there's some negative aspects to railroad use, but together we believe we can overcome the negatives for the benefit of Clark County. Please join us. We would welcome your support.
That concludes the presentation of the slide presentation. What our ideas were is to hold open houses around the county, and I'm guessing 4 or 5 different open houses at different areas, North County and Camas Washougal area, maybe in Midtown, Ridgefield, and in the center of the county. If you would do 5 of these presentations, and we would do the slide presentation, and we'd have maybe some storyboards set up to show the different aspects and questions and answers. And if we held like a 2-hour open house, we could show this film 2 or 3 or more times, or just have it continuously running, and they could pop in and see it or not see it, because it's a relatively short presentation. And then we'd have people available to answer questions and talk about the railroad, just as a information for the residents of Clark County, that particularly the ones that aren't on the railroad, that don't know anything about the railroad. And our mission is to promote the improvement and enhancement of the railroad and the economic benefit for the railroad. So that's the whole purpose of this. We, in the past, have been involved in going to Olympia and lobbying for legislation for the railroad and for money for the railroad. We haven't been doing that in the past couple or 3 years. So we're trying to find something that we can do to help promote the railroad as a real benefit and economic driver for Clark County. That's about all I have. Do I have any questions from the council?
Thank you. Are there questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very thorough presentation. Just a couple questions. One about businesses that might use the rail, and then another about transit. So the first one on businesses, you had examples of light industrial like sawmill, carbonate, Far West Steel. What are some examples are there small businesses that would fit better into a residential community that would be examples of what might use the rail, and I was wondering if any of these potential businesses are able to use it with the 10-mile-an-hour restriction, or is that a hindrance to their business operations?
Let me just address the 10 mile an hour restriction is not a problem for, we only have 33 miles of rail anyway. And so going that at 10 miles an hour doesn't take long to go up and down there. And it's not like you're hauling freight for a real long distance profit out of it. You're hauling it from just point A to down to the track, the mainline track, and then they're set down there, and then BNSF or Union Pacific picks them up and takes them on a longer range. As far as businesses, for instance, we have the people who make the milk cartons that are up in Brush Prairie now, which is a more local and it's a friendly environment as far as industrial use. I mean, they don't have any exterior thing because it's all done. They make the pellets that make the milk cartons, and they haul it in the pellets, and then they make the cartons and haul them back out by rail, both directions. That's the one example of that. Some of the other ones are more visible in terms of what they do in and outside. We've been told by people who have looked at the railroad before, if there was land available, they would use it for distribution points where they bring in large quantities of items and then be distributed out either by rail or by truck elsewhere.
Okay, thank you. And the other question was about transit or future potential transit. Would the lines have to be upgraded for that? And what type of transit would you envision? Could you kind of describe what it would look like?
I'll let Neil address that in a minute, but yes, it is something that they definitely would have to upgrade the rail. In the northern part of the line, it's mostly what they call 66-pound rail, and it's very thin. And the modern cars, I mean, they've grown in size from almost doubled and tripled and quadrupled in size of trains. So the heavy train cars going up that line would create a problem on 66-pound. Below that point, most of it's upgraded to around 100-pound rail. I mean, I wish I had the examples to show you because there's a big difference between one and the other as to what the size of the rail is and what kind of cars can go over. You have to go really slow on that small rail to keep from really damaging the tracks.
Okay,
And I think Neil has done more review on the
So obviously,
passenger train. Yeah.
obviously with having a train run for commuter traffic, they've done it at the very beginning of the line, running from Vancouver to Yakult. And so it seems to me like it could be used again in the future. Battleground to Vancouver would be, I think, would be a good use of the line. But it would definitely have to be upgraded a lot. So.
Okay, and what would any ballpark figure of what it would cost to upgrade the line? Because that's
Not a
obviously
clue.
important.
There is, and we have a member on our board now that's had been involved in the upgrading the lines, other lines that haul some commuter traffic in and around the Portland area. And he's involved in the committees and with legislation of developing that lines. And he said there is a fair amount of money available, which we haven't looked at tapping, but we should do if we want to consider passenger rail. There's a fair amount of federal money available for improving lines to bring them up to the traffic with a plan to, develop commuter traffic and take people off the highways.
I would also like to make a point about there's a line called West that TriMet operates going from Wilsonville to Beaverton. It's a heavy rail train and it's very comfortable. I've ridden it several times. So
Doesn't it go all the way to Salem?
It currently does not go to Salem.
Doesn't,
The
okay.
line continues on to Salem, but they stop in Wilsonville.
Okay, because I think that would be the closest example to examine in terms of cost.
Chair.
Yes.
Yes, I'm familiar with that line, and I've ridden it myself, as a matter of fact, from Beaverton, Wilsonville, and back. But is there even a demand, from Vancouver to Battleground for a commuter rail? I just don't see it. I mean, the Wilsonville Beaverton line is a much more urbanized corridor than Vancouver Battleground, and who's going to pay for it? I'm kind of curious. Who are you thinking, envisioning paying for a commuter line between Vancouver and the city of Battleground in a county that is very highly dependent on cars?
We don't know what the demand is, and that there's federal money available to evaluate the demand and what it could be projected going into the future. Those are the things that would have to be done, obviously, to decide whether to invest money in that kind of program. But it is a possibility. I mean, if we continue to grow the way we are, it will come. I mean, people will demand that kind of traffic.
There's someone online that has their hand up.
Yeah,
Go
this is
ahead.
Dave. This is Dave Rowe. Is that who you're addressing?
Yes,
I've
we
got
can
my
hear
hand
you.
up. Yeah. Down south in Metro has a regional rail future study that was completed in December 2025. And they're looking about a regional rail to expand 200 miles of freight rail corridors in the Portland region. And I think Clark County should be thinking about how they can connect to Metro's plan to get people across the river. Interstate Bridge IBR is spending $9 billion, possibly $12 billion to build a highway that's not going to increase or decrease commuter time. So I think this is an opportunity of time to look at building the infrastructure we have here for regional rail, because we could come in from Camas to Portland, Battleground to Portland, Ridgefield to Portland, connecting to the existing freight rail system that we have without expending that much money for light rail. Light rail is so expensive because you have to build brand new bridges, brand new track, brand new stations, and it's very, and it only comes into Vancouver. There's no way to connect it to the rest of Clark County without building a lot of infrastructure. But when we have a system like we have here, the Chelatchie Prairie Railroad owned by the county, and we have railroad tracks that go to Camas, Washougal, up the gorge that's already existing, and you just have to put. I've been looking at battery powered rail cars that they use in Europe, and they are using them down in Texas too, where you wouldn't have to build a substations where you just plug them in and they run all day, and when they come back they can be recharged. So it's something we should look at the whole county, because we have these railroad tracks that are existing. We should look at it in the next 20 years and
Dave,
work with
Dave, are you
Metro.
on the Rail Advisory Committee?
Yes, I
Okay,
am.
thank you. Okay, other counselor questions?
Chair.
Yes.
Couple things. So first, I wanted to thank you and all of the board for the work that you do on there. I have been in attendance in many meetings, and I have felt the feeling in some of your meetings of some of the frustrations with some of the activities that have taken place that are associated with the railroad. And I appreciate what you do. I just wanted to let you know that. And I think, I'm just kind of finishing off on that topic. I really doubt whether there is enough demand to do something like it, but there probably likely will be eventually. And I would be supportive if we can find grants that would explore that. Maybe there is demand, you know, and if there is demand, then maybe that's something we look at, and maybe not right now, but that would give us direction on, you know, long-term use of the rail. As far as your desire to go out to the community, I'm fully supportive of that. The only thing I would say is I feel like some of the messaging from your slide presentation needs to be looked at. I think there's a little bit of opinion interjected into it that I think could be changed a little bit to make it better. And just a couple examples that I noted is, you know, the comment, "Why is rail better?" I think you could share that same slide and just change the language to benefits of rail. You know, we're not saying that one is better than the other. That's a little more along the lines of policy. I'd be very careful with the comments on ag land and the tax benefits, and I think that we would need to work with the assessor for sure to speak about that, because I don't know that it's accurate that there would be a higher tax collection from the county because land values increase because it's not ag. I think it causes a shift, not an actual increase. And then at the very, very beginning, the very first slide that was there, I don't know if you could pull that back up real quick, because there was another thing that I wanted to point out in terms of like interjecting opinion into it. I don't know if we could pull that up real quick. Or maybe it was the second one. I don't know. I forgot what it was. But there was just a comment that could have been worded a little bit less policy oriented and opinion, and just a little bit more factual.
I have provided a script for this that you can
Sure. Yeah, and I
get it.
can look in that and then provide that feedback again. We don't have to sit here forever looking for that. And then I think it's important too that that if we do go forward to the community with a video like this, that we also recognize there was a little bit, you know, of recognition about how residential uses were very close and there were impacts, but I think it would be better to be balanced, to acknowledge some of the challenges that exist with the rail as it is. But I think this is great. I think the rail overall is an economic opportunity of sorts for the county. How we work through those issues is for sure challenging. But a lot of people don't know about it. And I think spreading awareness of the rail and the benefits and the challenges and how it exists, I think would be a benefit to the community. And I appreciate your willingness to take your time to work on that. I think that it would require that staff really work with you folks for sure to figure out how that looks, you know, what's appropriate to be on there, the appropriate times and things, you know, logistical things with that. But I would be supportive of something of that nature moving forward.
Okay, thank you for those. I share some of those comments, but I'm just wondering about the timing of this at this time and toward what end. I think it would be good to get feedback from the community of what they would like to see become of the railroad. And you all know it's been very contentious, and it's still contentious, and the county is currently in litigation with PVJR. So I don't think the timing now is appropriate to do this community outreach at some point, but it might be better when we've resolved some of our differences and have a better sense ourselves of what direction we'd like to take with the railroad. Also note that both the city of Yakult and the city of Battleground have taken a position against the railroad. So it would be good to involve those cities in, what their opinions are in the use of the railroad. And then I know I've read that report on the rails and trails, and I wondered why did that stall, or if actually we're able to proceed with that related to our current lease agreement with PVJR.
That's a really good question, Counselor Marshall. I think it paused because of funding and also challenges with the railroad operator and coming to agreement on the trail that was constructed. And I think that was a difficult challenge at the time. And so maybe the appetite hasn't been there. But it is something that I know that our parks manager, Ross, and as we dive into the next update of the park system plan, that trail corridors, regional trail corridors is a high priority for us as we move into that. So it's something that I think we want to continue to look at, but it's been a challenge.
I think one of the major issues was the cost of doing it. It was much higher than they originally anticipated it being to develop the trail along there. There were some problems with the operator at the time, but those were ironed out, and I think the operator was happy with what resulted from that. There hasn't been much contention since then, to my knowledge.
Related to the trail?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a lot of contention. I know that, but I'm talking about the trail specifically.
Thanks for clarifying that. Go ahead.
On the potential of adding to the trail, how many miles are potentially available or have the right space for a trail?
So I think the right of way, if I remember the trail plan, and I haven't looked at it in a while, but if I remember the trail plan, I think that the right of way is wide enough in most situations to accommodate a trail. The section that was constructed near Battleground Lake State Park, you saw the picture of it. There's adequate space to, if needed, fence it off, or other barriers in between the trail and the tracks themselves. And I think there's also in the plan connecting to existing trail corridors, like the Molten Falls to Hantwick. Like that's an existing trail that runs near the railroad, and so you connect to that, and that continues the line on. So there's also looking at those and making those connections, and not always just building new sections of trail.
Chair.
It's been a while since I've looked at the plan, but the plan did cover the entire 33 miles.
Yeah.
Of track originally, and then it was only built that portion up by Battleground Lake. And I remember the council at the time thought it was extremely expensive building trail, and they multiplied that times 33 miles, and it became an astronomical number.
Often with trails, it can take decades to really fulfill the full trail, and you look for opportunities along the way.
And it did show that the trail could be weaved in with industrial property, so that industrial property has to have some blank area around it for parking areas and green areas and buffers and things like that. So the trail could be weaved in around the industrial areas, so that it's not obtrusive to the people, and it's not obtrusive to the functioning of the industrial area. So it's kind of weaved together.
The existing trail, where does it currently start and where does it end?
I don't know where it ends. It starts at Battleground Lake and goes north.
It actually goes south. So from Battleground Lake State Park, it heads south towards Battleground about a mile.
Oh, so it's only about a mile.
Yeah.
But the sections of the trail that are already existing, they start off on the Discovery Trail and you head out to over the freeway, and then that's where it stops there. They wanted to run it up by BPA, and that hasn't happened. and then out St. John's, and then you hook up to the trail with the Paddon Expressway out to about, I think, at 94th, and then turn north and go and then hook back up. So a lot of the trail is in place. It's just not hooked up.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
I would just add a little bit to that conversation, as Kevin mentioned. That's, one of the discussions that we are having in the regional parks task group that we have assembled is regional trails and how we, the importance and the level of having those. And I mean, how cool would it be, to have like the Burnt Bridge Creek Trail connected to our trail that went all the way up to the northeast corner of the county. Or even, I mean, just starting out, going to Battleground, stuff like that. I do agree with the comment from Chair on cities need to be involved in this discussion. And I mean, that is the intent behind the parks plan that we're working on is region wide with all the cities. So that connection would be made there. But I am fully supportive of a trail system like that. And I think it's worth an investment. I think it'd be a public benefit that would be worth the investment. So anyway, I just very supportive of that. I know that there is a lot of work going on to update our parks plans, and part of that discussion is regional trails. So looking forward to seeing how that unfolds in the future.
Okay, I think, are we looking to provide some direction in terms of whether or not to do the outreach? I would say from my perspective, it'd be better to wait till we resolve some of our differences with the operator and can, I think, provide some certainty of directions going forward.
Chair.
Yes.
I would just suggest, and I recognize your thoughts on that, and that was kind of my intent behind having kind of the policy and the opinion part pulled out of it and just being a fact-based presentation. But yeah, that was my thought, and I would support moving forward with it, but having a close look at it before it goes out for sure.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
How does that affect, does having any of these outreach sessions affect our lease compliancy? Is that something separate?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And I think if we approach it from purely factual base, what are the benefits of a railroad, then I don't think it would. I know Kevin McDowell is online with us and can speak to that probably more clearly. Kevin, would
Well,
you like to say anything?
Yeah, just very briefly, Kevin McDowell, DPA, would just like to concur with what Mr. Tyler has just stated. Certainly whether or not to conduct such outreach sessions is within council's prerogative. From a lease compliance standpoint, there are not prohibitions that would disallow that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Any other thoughts on direction related to this outreach from other counselors? We've heard from two.
I would support moving forward with the outreach. I think we can do both. We can wait to see what the outcome of some of the challenges that we have to do it from a legal perspective, and also do the outreach at the same time.
I'm not a lawyer or anything, so I don't know the legal perspective, and I also don't want to have your outreach sessions be difficult for you. I mean, if you waited till the summer, maybe it would be a better time to talk about rail and benefits. I don't know. I would prefer maybe waiting a little bit, so that they're more positive sessions for you.
I agree with that. They're likely to be very contentious. And I think if it appears that you're promoting a particular use, I'd hate to see, debates and arguing back and forth, but I do think there's value in hearing from the public and their opinions on the railroad and potentially how it could serve the county. Councilor Belcott, do you want to add anything?
I agree with Counselor Young and Fuentes. I'm a little concerned about the perspective of us being combative with the operator by not doing the sessions. I obviously am very familiar with the railroad and how some of these discussions can be combative. At the same time, there's a lot of confusion about the rail line. And I've had a lot of experience with that initially when I got elected. So that's my opinion.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
it looks like there's support from three, but I would make a recommendation, and this is not in any which way to suggest that you're not capable of it or whatnot, but I do think that the presentation should be led by our staff and the board there as a supporting role, because I do agree it could become contentious. I mean, I would expect to have people show up at that open house that are very much opposed to the railroad. So I think it would be beneficial to have our staff making the presentation with the direct advice from our board and the involvement of the council on what the content would be and such of that nature.
And let me just ask you about timing. I would suggest holding off.
Can we get clarity from council if that's, because I heard 3 want to move forward with the presentation. It's going to be a video, so the staff isn't presenting. It would be a version of the video that you just saw.
I think it would be good to have staff on hand.
Yes, that absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that, we're not changing the format to like a PowerPoint in which staff will be presenting.
Right.
It's what you saw today is what is being recommended to be shown at these open houses.
So just to be clear, it will be a version of the video, but to Councilor Young's point, it needs to update it, and some of the opinions should be removed and make it based on facts. In addition, when are you proposing starting these presentations or these community outreach?
I would suggest that they not be done until summertime anyway. So it would be, people would be more apt to come out and see them during that time. And also we have to develop what could be storyboards and things that emphasize some of the issues that are on the video. Also, it's not going to be anything different than what's on that video, but it's just going to be pointing out those things to the key factors in there.
And it sounds like one of my colleagues recommended waiting until this summer. Chair, you also mentioned holding off on it. When do you think is the most appropriate time to potentially do the outreach or start the outreach?
I would say when the litigation is resolved.
In other words,
That
never.
could be years.
In other words, never.
Never.
Yeah. So I think summer sounds great.
And I think if you understand Councillor Young's suggestions for not offering opinion about really, well, whatever did you want to reiterate that?
Yeah, I
so
think
it's clear?
most of the content is okay. It's just kind of some of the wording. Like, for example, I pointed out, instead of why is rail better, it's what are the benefits of rail, things like that. And then there was that one glaring statement at the beginning. It's really bugging me that I can't remember it, but just things like that. And I think staff can certainly help you through that and making some of those adjustments.
Yeah, we can provide the script. We can also just work directly with the Railroad Advisory Board on amending the script, and I'll bring in our Public Works outreach team to assist with how we do this open house and make sure that we have sort of the Public Works model for engaging the community in play.
Yeah, we had talked to Kevin about that earlier. I mean, I would assume it would be similar to the outreach that you do when you propose a roundabout in my neighborhood. why do I want it or why do I don't want it? And that's the kind of outreach I was thinking about. It's informative, and here are the things, and we would come back with obviously objections and questions and answers and as much as possible. So I mean, it's nothing there. And trust me, I've been here 20 years on this railroad, and you can't get any more contentious than it's been. So other than a bullet in the back, and I've seen it all and felt it all.
Okay, and I would be curious, I think Yakol, maybe Chelatchie, and Battleground would be 3 communities to provide this
I'm surprised
information.
Yakult is against it. They're probably against the operator more than anything else.
I'm not going to offer an opinion on that, but
We can find we can find that out. We have
I think
plenty of people that are from Yakult that are promoting it. So I'm
absolutely. And I think it's just that there's been so much uncertainty and conjecture about what could happen. So be good to
we have
clear
a
that
member
up.
of the Yakult council what is he, the director of public works, I think, for Yakult is on the board. So
Okay. Well, those are 3 communities impacted. So
Well, in addition, Jerry, I think this is a good opportunity for those who oppose, anything railroad related to come out and have their voices heard. To your point, it's been a contentious issue for years, for as long as I've been on this council, a year. And so I think everybody needs to be heard, and you will probably get a lot of opposition.
trust me, in 20 years, I've heard virtually everything against the railroad that could possibly be there.
Chair, just one
Go ahead.
last little comment too, and I would leave this up to you and to staff to look at, but it might be a good idea to separate the rail and freight rail dependent use, because there are likely people that would be supportive of the rail but not FRDU, and it would help us to kind of understand, is there general support behind the rail as a whole? Is there support behind rails and trails? Is there support behind FRDU, that type of thing? But I think it is the FRDU and the rail itself are 2 really fundamental issues that people may have much difference in opinions on. If that makes sense.
I don't think we had anything in there on
I was
FRDU.
trying to stay away
We
from.
tried,
Yeah,
we tried
know,
very much to stay away
yeah,
from
I
FRDU.
realize that, but I think it might be worth actually adding something to it, just so that people can distinguish that the rail itself is not FRDU, right? They're 2, they could become the same, but what I'm hoping for is that you don't have people that are coming in and we're assuming that they're opposed to the rail completely, but their only issue might be FRDU.
I'd be cautious about including it in your presentation. It will come up.
Oh, no, I no doubt it'll come up. We were very cautious about not having it in there because we don't want that to be an issue. That's an issue all beside itself.
Yeah.
We're just suggesting that there is benefit to having freight rail dependent uses along the railroad.
Chair, can I just get confirmation that with edits that have been suggested and summertime is the time frame, that I have 3 counselors that are supportive of that?
Yeah, I would just strike the last edit that I proposed.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know if people have been along the rail and ridden the excursion train, but it's a beautiful route. Thanks a lot.